Welcome back, everybody, to Let's Talk About Sleep. You know, I got to show you the book, which is right here. Amazon link to this in the description box down below. Getting closer to 1,000. As we get there, one person at random will get a signed copy of that. But you got to be in it to win it, so make sure you subscribe. As I always say, these videos are for education only. And with that, I want to thank everybody who, over the last month, has interacted with asking a question or posting a comment on the videos. You know, we want to keep doing this, and you know, you guys make it happen. So thank you for everybody who interacted. If you asked or said anything this past month, that's today and the next video. All right, so let's get right into it, and I'll start off with Pufflefuzz, who writes on my Fatal Familial Insomnia video, can somebody have the gene, but the gene is never switched on, quote unquote, and the prions never unfold, then they die of something other than that? It's a great question. So what he's referring to is things like mad cow disease and fatal familial insomnia, if you watch that video. These are what's called prion diseases, and what prions are basically abnormal folded proteins that then cause other proteins to abnormally fold, and then they become toxic, and that leads to a cascade of problems, which ultimately leads to death, usually over approximately about a year or so. Okay, so fatal familial insomnia starts off with very severe insomnia, then there's cognitive changes, and it's a terrible, terrible condition. Thankfully, it's extremely rare. So what Pufflefuzz is asking is, could somebody have the kind of genetic predisposition to this, but it just never turned on? And that's really a question of nature versus nurture, right? What genes do we have within us, within our DNA, that is never turned on or is turned on based on our exposure to things, or you know, or the way we live our lives? And it's a great question. I don't know the answer to that for this condition specifically. I don't know if anybody does, you know, because fatal familial insomnia is so rare that you know, I don't know if we have the information on that kind of situation. But it's a great question. You know, is it possible? Absolutely, absolutely is. But again, how rare is it? There's been about 20 cases in the literature in the course of human history, so it's pretty rare. But good question. On my long COVID video, GM writes, I had insomnia from December to April this year. It was hell. Yeah, that's chronic insomnia. You know, at least 3 months in length. That's chronic insomnia, and it can definitely be hell. Luckily, it went away. Good for you. But I still suffer from other symptoms. Lack of sleep was the worst, though. I'm assuming you're talking about from COVID, which we know can happen. Post-COVID, there can be fatigue, there can be insomnia, there can be you know, people having brain fog, right? That we're kind of discovering that now. It's a really evolving situation, though, so no one really understands the kind of ins and outs of it. But it is very it's known, it's well known out there. The thing to focus on, though, which I'm glad it's gone away for you, is from this point forward, is to make sure you are doing good habits, good sleep hygiene, taking care of yourself, getting enough sleep. Okay, and if there is underlying depression or anxiety from this, to get that taken care of, you know. So good. I'm glad it improved, though. Ryan asked on my question answer video from last month. He's talking about his UARS, which is upper airway resistance syndrome, and he says he uses CPAP, but he wants to know how can he see how effective it is. You know, CPAP machines these days. I'm just paraphrasing his question. CPAP machines these days really tell us if somebody has obstructive sleep apnea and how effective the treatment is, right? The pressurized air comes in, forces the airway open, the stoppages of breathing go away. So it's a very kind of cut and dry situation. With UARS, the airway is not closing off entirely, it's kind of just becoming tight. And Ryan is asking, is there any way to tell that from the CPAP machine? Unfortunately not. Really the best way to see if somebody has UARS or if the treatment is working is something called esophageal manometry, which is more of a research tool. It's basically looking at the pressure of the esophagus itself with a little tube, you know, little cannula tube, or it's kind of like a little sensor that goes into the esophagus itself. A home, you know, situation with a CPAP, it's not gonna work out. As you said, it's basically just gonna tell you AHI is less than 1 or whatever it is. What I would tell you, Ryan, to focus in on is How do I feel in the morning? Do I feel energetic? Where's my fatigue at? Where's my brain fog at? Are those things improved upon? If the answer is yes, that's kind of the best thing we have right now in terms of being able to measure the effect of UARS treatment. So maybe down the road we'll get there, but CPAPs are not there yet. Excellent question. On my sleep inertia video, Vijay writes, great explanation. Thank you. On my bongo device, Andrew writes, is your explanation for why Provent went out of business the full story? If you open your mouth using nasal masks on CPAP, all the pressure escapes as well, yet they are still popular. Good point. The difference, though, with CPAP is continuous positive airway pressure, right? So CPAP, the masks, the pressure comes in, goes all the way down to the back of the throat, ideally goes down here, forces the airway open, no problem. If somebody opens their mouth on a CPAP, nasal CPAP mask, the pressure will come out. You're absolutely right. However, this is a continuous stream of pressure, right? The Provent and devices like that, the pressure comes from mouth closed, breathing out through the nose. The breathing out through the nose causes the pressure to bounce back and basically act as a auto CPAP, as it were. So basically, it's not continuous pressure. It's just with each breath, you're getting pressure. So it's as soon as you open the mouth, that pressure is dissipated, it's gone. Whereas CPAP, it's just a continuous stream. And what happens is with some of these machines, and especially newer ones, if they detect that there is a large leakage, the mouth opening up, the pressure will go up, or the flow, I should say, will go up to try to overcome that problem and keep the airway open. But also with nasal masks, if people are really opening their mouth and the pressure is going out, that's still not going to be fully effective. So sometimes we have to increase the pressure. We have to have them use headgear to kind of keep the mouth closed, or try a full face mask. So yes, that is the full story. And maybe there will be a better, there are better versions down the road than the Provent, but Provent really just did not work well. And on top of that too, the adhesive, I think, was not strong enough, and things just kept falling off the nose. So there's that as well. All right, but good question. On my cancer and sleep video, Sherry writes, this doesn't fit the topic today, it's fine, but I have a question about a sleeping pill. Are you familiar with the protocol for elderly clients coming off Ambien after years of use? Memory loss is a concern, of course. Withdrawal can involve seizures and other problems if not tapered. Thank you. Yeah, great question, Sherry. There's not really a cookie-cutter answer with coming off Ambien or any kind of medication that has potential for addiction. I am not a huge fan of Ambien. I really, if a patient comes to me and they've never been on anything else, Ambien is not usually what I would prescribe. A lot of times people will come to see me and they've been on Ambien for years, and they have the same desire to come off of it. What I usually tell them is we start off weaning down very, very slowly. And what I mean by that is, let's say you have a pill, you cut off a little chunk of it, maybe a quarter of a pill if you can do it. All right, it's a little bit hard with, small pills, but the idea though is you do that, for let's say 2 weeks, right? A quarter of a pill taken off. Then you do a half a pill for 2 weeks. Then you do a quarter of a pill for 2 weeks. That's one way to do it, right? The other way would be like, okay, one night I take a full pill, next night I take 3/4 of a pill. Next night I take one pill, next night I take 3/4 of a pill, and do that back and forth for a few nights, then go down to quarter of a pill, half a pill, right? And the idea though is that there's various ways to wean down. The point though with Ambien is you want to do it slowly. Slowly is the key thing, because yes, it can affect memory. There is some potential for addiction. Seizures, I mean that's kind of a much more rare thing. The withdrawal though is more, it's more like rebound insomnia and as you said, long-term use with memory. So yeah, I agree with you. If you can get off Ambien, if the person you're talking about can get off Ambien, that would be great. Usually though is I want to replace it with something else. So if there is, let's say, underlying anxiety, something like trazodone might be helpful, okay, which you guys know I prefer. Something like gabapentin might be useful, okay? So, you want to see if there's something there that can be still treated without, medications like Ambien. The other thing to remember is Ambien kind of a Band-Aid covering something which hasn't been discovered yet? So, I mean, like sleep apnea, leg kicking throughout the night, is there underlying anxiety, depression? These are all questions which have to be answered. But yes, if you can wean down or begin the process of weaning down, I think it's a good thing. So, good question. Hopefully that helps. And I think what we'll do is we will stop there and we'll start the next video with the next question or comment. Until next time, everybody, sleep well and thank you for interacting.